Rozier is under federal investigation for allegedly manipulating his game on the basketball floor for sports betting. I'm here to break down all the bits and pieces that we have on this episode of Heat Digest. So let's get right to it and break down how Terry Rozier is under federal investigation for altering and manipulating his gameplay on the basketball floor for sports betting. And again, this is all allegedly. They are under investigation now, so we are yet to find out whether or not Terry Rozier has actually broken the rules. We're going to start with this tweet from Chris Haynes, what goes on to say, Heat guard Terry Rozier is under investigation by federal prosecutors for potentially cooperating in a legal sports betting scheme in 2023 while with the Charlotte Hornets. And again, this was tweeted yesterday on January 30th, and this is substantial. And the reason being is because we've seen this happen in the past. Obviously, recently with Jonte Porter in the Toronto Raptors, he caught a lifetime ban, and obviously it has happened in the past before Porter. And again, if this continues to happen, things are going to be aggressive. And when I say that, I mean these players are going to get lifetime bans. This is not the Charlotte Hornets or the Miami Heat are going to give you a ban, and you're no longer going to be a part of their organization. The entire NBA is going to basically expel you from the league and no longer allow you to play professional sports for their organizations and for their association. Now, this is huge. You're playing basketball for a living. You are playing, and some would argue, a kid's game for a living, for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars annually to play basketball. And rather than doing that, you decided to place a sports wager, a wager on your production, your statistical production, whether it be an over, whether it be an under, whatever it may be. You decide to bet on that to make probably a large chunk of money because you probably have the money to place a substantial wager on that particular wager, that bet. But again, was it really worth it? If this comes out to end up being true, would it end up really being worth it? You're being paid millions of dollars a year annually to play the game of basketball, but because of one reason or another, you decide to place a sports wager on yourself to do poorly or even very well. Again, we don't know the actual logistics of it, but we do have some tweets that we're going to break down that gives us an idea of what we're really looking at. Now, another tweet from Chris Haynes that went on to subtweet the tweet we actually just covered. He went on to say the NBA statement, and again quotes the NBA with their statement saying, the league conducted an investigation and did not find a violation of NBA rules. We are now aware of an investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York related to this matter and have been cooperating with the investigation. And that is the end of the quote. Again, a quote from the NBA itself. Obviously, their representatives coming out and getting ahead of this, not letting the speculation continue to grow. The idea is that they conducted their own investigation on this matter in Terry Rozier and obviously did not find anything substantial that would be breaking the violations or breaking the rules and ways of the NBA. So again, that is check mark 1 for Terry Rozier in the idea of getting past this and being considered innocent. But again, now he still is under federal investigation by the Eastern District of New York and an attorney from that district really looking to figure out what is going on and if Terry Rozier is innocent or guilty. Now, the Wall Street Journal is the place that cited and really posted this first, but again, they have a paywall, so we went around it, and we are going to cite this article from The Athletic saying NBAer Terry Rozier under federal investigation for illegal gambling scheme manipulating performance, where they go on to cite that Wall Street Journal report saying, according to the Wall Street Journal report, federal authorities authorities believe some of the same people who worked with Porter in 2024 also had information on Rozier's performance that allowed them to bet on his performance in 2023. Spokesperson for the Heat and Hornets referred to the NBA comments. Rozier's agent has not returned a request for comment. A spokesperson for the Charlotte Hornets has not responded to emails asking for comment. So everyone involved in the Terry Rozier circle, whether it be for the Miami Heat, the Charlotte Hornets, or anyone else in between, has declined or failed to answer to comment and give an answer about this entire idea surrounding Terry Rozier, which is a bit interesting. They are waiting to answer. They're keeping their mouth shut for the time being. And again, I don't blame them. There are a lot of moving parts. Now, that article would continue to go on and say the NBA conducted an investigation after the league was notified about unusual betting activity related to Rozier's performance in that game. And Bass said that the league, and I quote, did not find a violation of NBA rules, end of quote. And then going on again to cite something like the Chris Haynes tweet we just cited, again, and I quote, "We are now aware of an investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York related to this matter and have been cooperating with this investigation," Bass said. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York declined to comment. So really, everyone involved in this investigation involving Terry Rozier, the actual lawyer, everyone involved is not commenting yet because, again, it seems like there are a lot of moving parts that have to be investigated before we get some substantial, really, answers and some comments on what is actually going on and what it is looking like for Terry Rozier and the other associates and people involved in this scenario. Now, the game and performance under scrutiny took place on March 23rd, 2023, when Rozier was still with the Charlotte Hornets. Rozier played just 9 minutes and 34 seconds in a game against the New Orleans Pelicans and scored 5 points. Prior to that game against the Pelicans, Rozier averaged 35.3 minutes and 21.1 points per contest that season. At the time, the reason given for Rozier leaving the game early was due to a sore right foot. He did not play in any of the team's 8 remaining games that season. So, a lot of moving parts. First thing we're going to say is the fact that obviously playing 9 minutes, or what was it, 9 minutes and 34 seconds in comparison to 35 minutes, only putting up 5 points in those 9 minutes. Honestly, statistically, that's pretty good. You're giving me 5 points in less than 10 minutes. It seems like you're on track to go out and perform pretty damn well over the course of something like 30, 35 minutes like you accordingly play. But obviously, he never made it to that 35-minute mark, never got in to the 10-minute mark because of a sore right foot. Now, obviously, we don't know how substantial the right foot injury could have been, but again, there were only 8 games remaining in the NBA season. The Charlotte Hornets, as we all know, have not been competing for playoff spots or seedings for a long, long time. And again, they could have just been shutting down Terry Rozier. But again, it leaves you the question, why would you even let him play in the first place if you're only going to let him play 9 minutes? If you knew he was dealing with some type of injury or some type of soreness to that foot, why would you even have him lace up to begin with? With that game counting, there would only be 9 games remaining. Obviously, following that, only 8 would be remaining. Were you planning on shutting him down following this game anyway? Did he go into this game with a sore right foot? Again, a lot of moving parts involving this entire scenario with Terry Rozier and the Charlotte Hornets. So again, we are waiting for a lot of people who are remaining quiet for the time being to come out and actually speak on this subject. Seems like they're going to wait until the federal investigation proceeds and actually gain some traction, if not comes to a completion, before they do so. Which, again, is not a dumb idea, but again, we are going to sit here and wait for some concrete answers from Rozier and his representation to actually get some substantial answers in the questions that we have. Now, on Twitter, there's a lot of sharps, if you will. I'm trying to use a word that everyone would be able to relate to. A lot of people that enjoy gambling on really everything. Now, specifically basketball, this guy, Detchum, I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, on Twitter, here's his account. I'm actually going to link his feed in his entire series of tweets that involve this conversation with Rozier because it is very, very interesting, and here's why. This is from March 23rd of 2003. Does that date ring a bell? It's exactly the date that we're discussing about the game. Rozier's situation is sus. Randomly pulled for a long time on all books despite no mention of him not playing or being on IR. Now announced as a starter, but line has dropped despite most of the money being on his overs. This reeks of him playing like 20 minutes or something. And again, March 23rd, 2023 with a 7:50 p.m. timestamp. Now, this is where things even pick up more. Now, please, again, go down, click on the link. It's going to be in the description. if this interests you, scroll down and just read these tweets. I didn't have the time or the ability to put all of them in this video because there are so many. But again, it's a very in-depth look at someone who was personally, like, on a first-hand basis, looking to gamble on this basketball game, and Terry Rozier specifically from an outsider, someone who gambles, I would say, religiously. His record is in his bio on Twitter. Again, this guy bets a handful, a lot on specifically NBA. So again, this stood out. Again, a thread on Rozier. Terry Rozier is currently under investigation after suspicious wagers were placed on him on March 23rd. Hashtag NBA game against the Pelicans when he was still on the Hornets. Myself and some others noticed the suspicious bets at the time. And again, it is a whole feed of just what he saw, the players, what the bets were, what the lines were, what he was on pace to actually produce. It is a very, very intriguing feed of tweets, or thread of tweets, I should say, if you're into the sports gambling type of community in this entire conversation surrounding Terry Rozier, because shout out to him for being so ahead of the curve, noticing that literally the day it happened. And again, he goes into the idea that the majority of the money was on his overs, but because of the line moving down so greatly, it seemed like there was some fish out in this pond dumping significant amounts of money on Rozier's unders, which again, if you don't know how sports betting really works, despite more money being on the over in totality, if they're getting large quantity amounts of money, or quantity of money being put on the unders. So if you have $10 million in total amongst millions of people betting on his overs, and then you have 5, 10, 15 guys betting $15 million or very large, substantial amounts of money on unders in just one wager compared to the lump total that you have through millions of people betting on his over, that's a bit fishy. And it seems like that's exactly what we got in this Terry Rozier entire situation. So again, I'm going to link it down below. If it interests you, click on it, look through the thread. It is very, very intriguing. But again, it doesn't look good for Terry Rozier, and it doesn't look good for the Miami Heat. Now, obviously, Rozier has been a substantial piece coming off the bench for this Miami Heat team, but now we are without Jimmy Butler, obviously, as more videos coming on Butler immediately following this one. But again, Rozier was a great piece coming off the bench for this Miami Heat team. After Spo took him out of the starting lineup, it really feels like he found a new way and a new position for him coming off the bench and being the sixth man, being a sixth man, because Jaquez obviously shares that role as well, but really dominating with the second unit and being the main guy in that second unit for this Miami Heat team. And again, if he's proven guilty of these alleged accusations of altering and manipulating his own play in order to win some money or win other people money in gambling, he's not only not going to be a part of this Miami Heat team, but a part of the NBA entirely. And again, that is something crazy. Let me know down below what you guys think. If you guys click on that thread and look through it, again, let me know what you guys think of it. That was it for this episode of Heat Digest, and I will see you guys on the next one.